given the fact that China has been very neutral publicly about what's happening in Ukraine, but privately it's clear Xi Jinping appeared with Putin at the Olympics, I believe, which was something that's fairly significant. And then there are reports of a increased friendliness and relationship between Saudi Arabia and Putin as well. So, I mean, what do you make of that shift? Because that isolates the United States to a degree that might just precipitate our inevitable downfall that has been happening in slow motion for a few decades at this point.
Yeah, so there's a few things to consider. One, I mean, I think China's been ambivalent. The Chinese government has been ambivalent this week about commenting on precisely exactly what's happening on the ground. And the Chinese government's position in general in foreign affairs has always been respect sovereignty, respect borders, that sort of thing. Try to be friends with everybody, no problems with their neighbors and well, not neighbors so much, but everybody else. So they're in a little bit of a bind here, and you've seen some statements, some I think very carefully parsed statements from China that acknowledge that they agree that Russia has grievances here with NATO and the United States, and maybe even grievances with Ukraine, but that the way to solve these things is through negotiation, not war, and we should respect the Ukrainian national borders and that sort of thing. There's a limit probably to how far they can go to help Russia evade Western sanctions. I don't know what that limit is, and we may find out. But yeah, there is a point at which, and again, I don't know where that point is, and I'm not an expert on sort of clerk currency trading or macroeconomics, but it strikes me that there will be a point at which countries like China and Russia and some other countries, some smaller countries that have been targets of heavy U.S. sanctions, are going to say, we need to move to a different system. We need to get away from the dollar. We need to take this power away from the United States, which, when you start to talk about China being involved and maybe the Saudis being involved, who knows, that starts to become a real possibility. It would bring a lot of pain. It would bring a lot of economic struggle for everybody, in terms of changing the system that the global economy has been rooted in for 80 years now. But it does become possible the more countries get subjected to these kinds of very punitive U.S. financial sanctions. And in the meantime, as you alluded to earlier, there is always the possibility of some internal disturbance or kind of discontent emerging in this in the Russian oligarch group, if we want to call it that, and they could ultimately decide that Putin is acting against their interests and make a move. I don't want to speculate too much about internal doings there, but that's always within the realm of possibility. The longer this goes on, I guess.
But if there's an alternative that he's working on, and there's and not to use this, I'm using this term on the national stage, but a coup of sorts of U.S. hegemony where it's okay, we're done dealing with this at this point. Their economy is bloated, their empire is bloated. We are able to form this alliance at this point, or not alliance, but at least relationship. I mean, that seems rational to me, even though it creates a ton of uncertainty.